Hey everyone, it's Rich from Mountain Sled Garage. It's a new season, just starting of the 25-26 season. Already starting to get snow in the mountains. I know there's places where people have already gotten out for their first ride. We're gonna do a video about track repair. You can see this all the time, people talking about it on social media. There's really no tried and true way to do this. So we're just gonna go over some things that you can try if you wanna save your track. There's some things that you definitely can't fix, like this track in the background that's torn in half. You're not gonna be able to fix something like that. But we're gonna go for some basic track repair, what you would use, and then we're also gonna go over towards the end of this video some track repair, like if you're out in the deep somewhere and you hit a stump or a fence post or something and you rip your track pretty badly, how you can maybe fix that to limp out to get back to your truck so you don't have to tow your snowmobile back. One of the main things we talk about is people using super glue to fix their tracks, to fix like little cracks and small things in them. And when I started looking into super glue, I was shocked how many different kinds of super glue there is. I had no idea there was specific super glue to glue rubber. And if you look up the different companies that make super glue, each company's got like 10, 20, 30 different kinds of super glue to glue different things. So there's literally thousands of different kinds of super glue out there if you consider all the companies and the things they cover. These are the ones I see most common. One of the main ones to glue rubber is Loctite 404. This little bottle is like $40. So it's one of the more expensive ones, but it's specifically for rubber. The other one I bought was this one, I don't even know how to say it, Alakpia specific rubber cement. This is like just under 20 bucks. And the other one I bought, I just thought I'd buy some different ones to try them. This is 3M Scotch weld for rubber and plastic. This one's like another $17. So these two are a little bit more affordable than this one. You get less and you get the Loctite name on it and you pay twice as much money. So go figure. But this is one of the ones I see a lot of people that recommend that one. All three of these are ones that are designed to fix rubber. The other thing I see people fixing tracks with, not really much cracks, but fixing like surface damage, is this E6000. Now when I bought this, I didn't know they make it in clear and they also make it in black. This is actually clear. Clear looks kind of crappy on a snowmobile track, so if you're going to buy some of this E6000, get the one that's black. It looks a lot better on your track than this clear stuff does. Clear stuff just looks kind of weird, but it does the same job as the black. So those are the things we're going to be using. If we look at a snowmobile track, there's pretty much three basic components of a snowmobile track. If we look at our track over here, there's the lug, there's this flat part right here that we're going to call the belt. And then there's this rod that goes across most snowmobiles. This is made out of fiberglass. So the rod, the lug, and the belt, those are the three components of a track. Cracks like this are the things we're going to be talking about fixing. Those are pretty easy to repair. Big things like this, that's just a goner. There's no way we're going to fix that. And then other things like if your whole lug is torn off like this, there's really no way you're going to be able to glue that back onto it. That's not just going to tear off again as soon as it hits something. So the best thing for this is where the crack stops down here is to slice it up there with a knife to just get rid of this flapping part, because that flapping part is just going to get caught on something and probably just rip the whole rest of the lug off. So that's another one that we're going to probably be able to fix. So let's look at fixing the ones that we can, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the stuff that we can't fix. All right, so we got our track here. We got our torn lug right here. We're going to fix this one. A couple of things before we start. We want to make sure we have our glue. We want some kind of clamps. So once we put the glue in, we can kind of hold it in place. You can hold it by hand, but getting a clamp just to like hold it together so you don't have to do it makes it really nice. Depending on what lug you're fixing, depending on what kind of clamp you're going to use. And then we also want something to clean it with. I like to use brake cleaner just because it cleans out stuff really well and then it dries off really fast when you're done. So I like to just spray it. And make sure you get down inside the crack of this thing, because you want anything that's in there that's going to keep this from sticking, your super glue sticking, you want that out of there. And then once that's done, we'll take our air and we'll this will help dry it, and then also anything that's left in the crack. All right, so now we got our crack here. We want to just see how this is going to fit back together when we put it together, and the best way to get the glue in there. This is kind of a nice split, and I think it's going to glue really nicely. Of course, we won't really know until we get this thing out on the snow and run it and keep an eye on it to see if it's going to split again. Most of these that we fixed the last couple of years have eventually split again, but it's like 3, 4, 5, 10 rides later. So most of them hold up pretty well. That's just not like a permanent fix. So, because you're always hitting stuff under the snow, you're going to hit a rock, a stump, a tree branch that's laying over, something like that. We're going to use the Scotch weld on this one. Get on the surface really well, even if you have to see some. The one thing I like about this is it's a little bit thicker. It's not really liquidy like a lot of super glue. So then we're just going to put this clamp on here. That's just going to hold this thing together, and I'll kind of wipe off any excess. And then we're going to let that sit for a minute. Now, the one thing we figured out last year was this hits like something else under the snow. They can split back open pretty easily, so we can do a step further to reinforce this. And what we found that's really simple for this, especially the tip here, is these little stick-on like tire repair kits. This is called Flatboy self-adhesive tire patches from Specialized Bicycles. What we do here, this comes with a bunch of these little clear patches and then a little sandpaper, and you can go ahead, you can roughen this up, but the brake cleaner does a pretty good job of preparing this. So we'll roughen that up, and then we're going to take one of these patches, and these just come off like this. And what we do is we wrap this down over the top of this. And that really helps solidify the top of the crack where this is going to be hitting something. And this has worked really well to give these more longevity. So we're going to take our clamp off now because it's pretty dry. And if we bring the camera over here, you can see here's our little clear patch that bends over the folds over the top. Now you can take another one of these and put it down the front here. I think I'll put another one down right there. Let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to take another one of these patches like this, and we're going to put it down the lower. We're going to overlap with the patch we have up here a little bit, and then we're going to stick this one on just down here over that, just to give that a lot more support, that crack. And that's kind of all there is to it. It's pretty simple process. And that usually, these splits, it usually helps them from splitting any worse or getting caught on something and tearing half your paddle off. So that's a pretty good fix. And I really like these little patches adding some extra stability to the crack. There's lugs hanging off. I am just going to take a knife and we're just going to finish cutting this off, because there's really no way that we're going to be able to get enough glue on there and make that any stability to where that's going to hold together and not just tear off that piece that's hanging off or risk tearing off the whole rest of the lug. So as we get this down here and finish cutting that piece off, I mean, this is a pretty ragged track. This is actually my early season track. I put this on the beginning of the year when the snow conditions aren't very covered yet, and I know I'm going to be spinning over a lot of logs and tree trunks and rocks and whatever else is on the ground, because the snow's only like 24 inches deep and you're always going to spin down to something. So I'll put this on for the first month or two of the year until the snow gets really deep, that I can trust putting on my good track for the rest of the year. So, all right, so now that we've fixed our one lug, we have a few other lugs on this track that we can fix. Other than fixing split lugs and cutting off lugs that are half hanging off, another thing that's fairly common is you can get a lug that tears off from the track itself and tears off the rubber and leaves the nylon cord underneath exposed. And that's also something, if the nylon cord is cut in any way or is severely damaged, your track is pretty much can't be trusted to hold up, because it's those nylon cords that give the strength of the track longitudinally. And if those are broken and torn or ripped, the integrity of your track is just not going to be something that you can trust. So if you have anything torn through the cords on the belt of the track, it's going to be something you really are going to want to replace. But it's pretty common to get a lug torn off to where the cords are visible, but the cords themselves aren't damaged. And so what's common to do there, I have a little spot like this on this track. but I've seen much bigger spots that people have glued over just to protect that area. So if we look at this one, we can see that this lug here is completely torn off, and it's torn the rubber off where you can see the cords of the belt where they go over the fiberglass rod that runs across. What we're going to do is put some of our E60 over that and cover that up just to give that some extra protection so those cords don't get damaged by other things that we drive our track over, rocks and sticks and whatever else this is spinning over in the snow. All right, so we're going to take our E6000 glue, and I think I called it E60 earlier, but and this is the clear stuff like I mentioned earlier. And what we'll do, we're just going to want to fill in this area and give it a nice covering. And I did clean this area beforehand with our brake cleaner, so we know that this is going to stick really well. And you can see without this being black, it leaves kind of a weird looking spot because this is pretty much going to dry the way you see it here. The black stuff just on a black track makes it look a little better. So we're just going to put some of this on to cover up this hole so that these cords don't get damaged any more than they are. And then we'll let that dry overnight. This stuff takes longer to dry than the super glue does. So if we go on this track, let's look at some other places that we can see that could be fixed. Here's the one we fixed already. That one's the one we cut off. Let's see, this is another one we'll probably end up having to cut off. Let's see, oh, here's one that's completely split in half. That one will be a nice fix. This one is another one that's split in half. We can easily fix that one and keep it from getting worse with our rubber super glue and our inner tube tire repair patches. All right, so I'm going to talk about a couple other things. These little tire repair patches, the clear ones we used, if you don't like using those or you can't find them, another things that we've used are the ones you have to glue on, like these. You've probably seen these before. You can use these with the rubber glue that comes in these to fix inner tubes. Or if you have something like a real big tear you want to reinforce, you have an old bicycle inner tube, you can cut it and cut yourself off a piece that covers up your hole, and then you have a piece like this. We'll cut it straight so it looks a little bit better. We're gonna, let's say this lug right here is torn. You cut your piece of inner tube. It's nice and smooth on the other side. You want to clean that off with your brake cleaner. And then you're going to want to glue your crack together with your super glue. And then you can use your rubber cement to glue this all the way over the tear like that. And that really reinforces it as well. So there's a number of ways to reinforce the cracks once you glue them with the super glue. Now, I talked earlier in the video about going over some repairs you can do on very damaged stuff. I think I'm going to save that for another video because those are things there where if you're damaged a track when you're out riding, how you can get it off the mountain. Those aren't repairs you're never going to want to trust your track against. It's usually stuff that involves tearing the belt. You get it caught on a fence post or tear it on a rock or something. People have torn their tracks completely in half, or you just can tear one part of your belt or something. So we're going to do another video on mountain track repair to get yourself off the mountain, kind of an emergency track repair. So I hope this is helpful for you. If you want to go over your track before the season starts, see if there's any small splits or chips that you want to fix on your track. I mean, like I said, it's not 100% fix. Your track is 100% better, but it'll help it last. Those little cracks and things, if you fix them before they get worse, will help you from tearing off part of a lug or all of a lug. I'm glad we're into the beginning of a new season. I'm pretty hopeful for the way the snow is going to stack up this year. And we'll see you next time on Mountain Sledder Garage.